Traditional strategies, they don't work anymore.
AI is making decisions faster than we can understand them.
Everyone's selling answers. Nobody has the truth.
Disruption isn't coming. It's already here.
Who's willing to cut through the bullshit?
Outwired.
Do you think because it's summertime that just makes you more sleepy in the middle of the day?
It must. I'm going to go with it.
Well, because like it's warmer outside, right? So like I have air conditioning in my house, but I have the window open by my desk chair because I like to have, fresh air, but also then it makes it warmer in the room than it would be with air conditioning. And so I feel like when it gets warmer outside, like I don't know what the threshold is. Let's say 75, 80 Fahrenheit, somewhere around there. I feel like I just get a little bit sleepier. We should ask AI if this is true. Somewhere around there, let's ask. Is it true that when you have the temperature rise higher than, let's say, 75, 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 25, 30 degrees Celsius, that you can sometimes get sleepier for no reason? What do you think the answer is going to be?
Yes, it's going to be yes.
Yes, that's real. Your body's core temperature naturally dips when it's time to sleep. And when ambient heat is high, your body responds by vasodilating?
Yeah.
There's a D in there, though. Vasodilating. I know what vacillating is, but is the D silent?
I don't think there's supposed to be a D in there.
There's a D in this one, man. Widening blood vessels near the skin to dump heat. The process lowers blood pressure slightly and mimics the same thermoregulatory pattern your body uses to initiate sleep, which can trigger drowsiness even in the middle of the day. A few things compound it. Your body is spending extra energy on cooling. Sweating, increased cardio output. I'm not really sweating, which is generally fatiguing even if you're just sitting there. Mild dehydration from heat. That's possible because I was drinking kombucha. I haven't been drinking a lot of water today. Even before you feel thirsty. If it's humid on top of sweat, the sweet spot for alertness is usually around 68 to 72, 20 to 22. Once you get above 77 degrees, 25 Celsius or so, most people start noticing cognitive performance and alertness drop off. I think you should be able to go home from work if it's then higher than 25 degrees Celsius.
Yes, I agree.
We should start a movement like that, especially at campgrounds. If you have work campers, you should just let them go home after 25 degrees Celsius in the summer. If there's nobody to check in, then, we're being stewards and kind to our employees. And I'm sorry, you'll just have to wait till tomorrow morning when they get back at 8 o'clock to check in, right?
Yep.
Is this good advice or bad advice?
I think it's great advice.
Good. Okay. All right. What's new with you, Scott?
Yeah, I had a interesting conversation with a campground owner right before this weekend, and it was on how they are positioning their campground. And I keep thinking about this, and I just think it's interesting because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. They're a relatively small campground. They have a great location on the Androscoggin River, which isn't too far from where I'm sitting right now. It's one of the major rivers in the Northeast that starts in New Hampshire, runs through Maine. And what they've done is changed their positioning of their campground, which is their core business is river trips. It's tubing, canoeing, kayaking, all that stuff on the river.
Okay.
And that's how they're basically marketing themselves, is saying we're a river trip company and our campground is our base camp.
I like it.
And that's what they've done. They've switched that. Because when you said work campers too, it reminded me of it, because they're looking for a couple of work campers, and they just say, they're saying it straight up. It's like, we are a river trip organization, but that also runs a campground. So the primary, focus of the work is the river trips, and so that's what they've done with their business, and they seem to be doing all right with it.
I mean, I like it, like because here's the thing: that one, it's not going to work for everybody, right? But if you start to think outside the box, as we've talked about many times on this show, you have to emphasize your experiences at your property, experiential hospitality, what makes you different, what sets you apart, especially as we're going into a down economy, what justifies your higher rates, all that kind of jazz, right? We know that all holds true. So if that is the case, and you're heading into an economy where, let's say, I don't know, pretend RV shipments are down 17% or something like that, just some made up random number.
Something you pulled up.
Ever be true, yeah. Or retail sales are down, 20% in Class A's or something crazy like that, which would obviously never happen. Anyway, but pretend you're heading into an area where, for whatever reason, the economy and economic conditions are causing people to be able to get out and camp less, either through the less of a purchase of an RV, leading to less people in the industry, or less retail registrations, leading to less people in the industry, or renewal registrations, or whatever the cause, right? Or they're trading down into state parks or BLM land or whatever else, for multitude of different reasons. We've talked about thinking outside the box. We've talked about justifying what you already have on your property, doing something different, telling your about us story, et cetera, et cetera. But there's also a clear chain of thought to, like, and it's not for everybody, right? But if you are in a location like that, where you are on a river or able to take advantage of another activity, whether that's you have a beautiful water slide, you can sell day passes, or you have restaurants that you can do food, or I don't know, dozens of different options, right? If it's a strong enough appeal, then why not? Like, why does a campground have to be your number one core thing if you have the ability to supplement that income, and in some cases, when we're talking about river trips, right, potentially reach a much broader audience of people who would then come through your campground and be like, oh, cool, what the heck, there's a cabin over there? Can I stay in that thing? Right?
Yep.
So I'm a fan of it. Like, I'm not saying that, like, if you have a river and you can put tubes in it, that this is default what your strategy should be, right? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying these times might require some people in some locations at a micro level, not a macro level, to study what they have available to them in the surrounding area, and to utilize that in a way that can drive more traffic into their rental accommodations primarily, because I think that's where the game is for the next few years. I don't think RV sales are going to spike back up in the next few years, at least. Maybe not ever. Like, I don't think RV sales are going away, right? But so I think you got to hang your hat on something else, whether that's tent camping and setting people up for a nice experience, or whether that's accommodations, glamping, cabin rentals, whatever else, or whether that's flipping the business and making the income that way and making that secondary, or I don't know, dozens of different ways to think about it, right?
Absolutely. And it does. It just kind of changes the dialogue a little bit, and changes how people, kind of view the business overall. And like you said, it can help feed the campground business. I mean, we've talked a lot on this show about getting younger people involved in the outdoors more, but guess who takes river trips more than anyone? And it's the one time they'll come as a group too. And what a great way to capitalize on the fact that they just had, like an all-day outdoor experience, or 2 days, whatever, on the river, and then to come to your campground, and then it's like, hey, let's continue the party. Let's have a campfire and cook some food and hang out, and keep it rolling. And I think it's a great way to kind of feed that business, and also get people involved more in the outdoors. So yeah, like you said, it's not for everyone, because everyone doesn't have that resource there, but it does illustrate the idea that sometimes you just take a different angle on things, and it can change what you're doing quite a bit.
I mean, it can be smaller or bigger, right? I mean, was it on this show? I can't remember. Were we talking about base camps a while ago? I can't
I
remember.
think we did. Yeah, we did, because we were talking about different things campgrounds could do to appeal to different segments, and yeah.
And how they would be like they should. Like I remember, I can't remember if I'd finished that conversation off the show or I did it. Like I was doing this in AI a while ago. Now I'm gonna have to go look it up because I'm gonna go put this in Claude right now because I'm gonna forget, and then I'll like do this because it'll surface it. Where did we talk about the idea of campgrounds becoming base camps in the future? Anyway, it's somewhere in there because then it'll surface up and I'll remember it after the show. But I think at a macro level, like, no, sorry, I think at a micro level is what I mean. There's nothing wrong with, like, we've talked about thinking outside the box, but there's nothing stopping you from labeling yourself whatever you want to label yourself as long as you, especially in an era of AI, as long as you have something that appeals to the type of demographic that you want to attract to your accommodations and or RV sites or tent sites or whatever you're offering.
Right.
If you are an existing campground, the idea that you have to be a campground or be an RV park or be an RV resort or be a glamping resort or be a lodging business or be an outdoor hotel or whatever the fuck you're trying to label yourself as, right? Is bullshit. It's just the way things have always been. And that for a long time, I still remember, I think I brought this up to you like months ago, but I still remember when I first got into this business in, I think it was 2011-ish, was my first kind of experience with maybe 2010 with KOA, where KOA used to have the cabins that were called lodges. They used to call their cabins lodges or something like that, or cabins with a K.
They were, yes, they definitely were cabins with a K.
Cabins with a K. And so, and what I think, and I don't have any insight into why KOA changed this, to be clear. So I'm completely guessing. What I am guessing is that someone really smart there who was in marketing, maybe it was Cole Reinhardt, maybe it was somebody else. I don't know. Cole's been there forever. That's why I just cite Cole. But like, I think at some point somebody was like, this is not great for SEO to call cabins with a K, right? Or lodges, because nobody really searches lodges. They search cabin rentals. The same way that for a while, nobody searched glamping. They search cabin rentals. And in many markets, it's cabin rentals still beats glamping for pure Google search, right? And so I think there's this idea that just because you're in the campground business, you have to be a campground, or you're in an RV park business, you have to be an RV park. And I think what AI is going to unlock, and we've had these conversations a little bit with clients, as you see AI progress more, and we talked about last week about how Google is changing the search box and Google is changing the, now the entry point into AI mode where it's suggesting the phrases and sentences to make you have a longer search and to get people used to that and to attach your own photos and all kinds of other stuff that they're adding, right? But dumping you into AI mode and not having a list of 10 blue links anymore. As they continue to push down that path of personalization and really make Google search the destination, instead of just search, it's Google, which it is to many of us, right? But then there's widgets and charts and graphs and booking experiences and everything without you leaving Google is the idea. So as they continue down this path and start to build more of this stuff into Google search, then I think you're going to see a situation where you have the ability to take advantage of this in new and different ways. Whereas before you had to get somebody to type in campground San Antonio or RV park San Antonio, which meant that for you to show up in those stupid blue links because Google didn't understand what you were talking about because the keyword search was dumb, you had to optimize and you had to call yourself an RV park or a campground. Now you don't. You can call yourself anything you want as long as you can at the same time make AI be able to understand what you mean by calling yourself that. In other words, who gives a fuck shit, whatever word I was going to use, right? I was going to say shit, and then I'm like, I can use fuck. It's Outwired. Then, like, whatever you call yourself as that business, you still must have a website and structured data set up in such a way so that Google's AI and ChatGPT and Claude and everything else can understand what you mean by the definition of whatever you're calling yourself. In other words, if you want to call yourself, like, I don't know, an outdoor lunar landing moon experience RV ground or whatever, making something up, right? if you can still define that in a way so that when AI crawls your website or searches your website through the text on your website or the schema markup behind the scenes, it understands that you are still an accommodation-based, partly accommodation-based business if you have canoe trips too, right? You offer cabins, you offer lodging, you offer RV sites. Here's the dimensions, here's the things about them, but you also do this. As long as AI can understand that, then it can begin to surface these things to more people. And if you're niching down or providing an experience to certain people, and AI continues to become more personal, which it is, Google is allowing you to connect your email and your calendar and your photos and all the things, right? Then I think Google ends up surfacing your crazy idea for a lunar campground to people who are like obsessed with NASA. And maybe you get a lot more business out of that. So I think the freedom for you to do whatever you want and be as creative as you want has never been more accessible to people than it is today. And it only continues to move that way. But you have to also have the strategy behind it.
Exactly. And that's where you hire a professional to do that for you. But we've talked about that repeatedly. Like, what's your story? And your story could be, it doesn't have to start off with, well, we opened a campground. It can be something completely different and take a totally different direction, even though you are a campground. And I think I actually like what you just said there, because it's like, it gives you that opportunity to truly tell your story and what it is about you that's unique, what you do, and kind of create your own vision out of how you position yourself in a way that has moved way beyond just a Google search.
Did we watch, I can't remember if it was on the show, did we watch those DirecTV commercials on the show at some point? The old DirecTV commercials?
I think it kind of rings a bell with me, but I'm not positive.
Like, why did you have, or why don't get cable, get DirecTV? Because if you get cable, something terrible is going to happen or something?
Yes.
Anyway, it's an old series. You can go look it up on YouTube somewhere. We're not going to play it again. But basically what happened is DirecTV put together these funny commercials, and they said, like, if this something happened, then it would lead to you, like, I don't know, getting eaten by an alligator or something, right? And there was like 10 steps in between that were not at all linked. And then at the end, it was like, if you get cable, you're going to get eaten by an alligator, so they get DirecTV or something like that. I don't even know if there was an alligator commercial, but just making something up, right? And so I think that's the same thing to me as the story of your campground. Everybody thinks it's as cut and dry as I went to a bank, I got a loan, and started a campground. You have a different story than that. That doesn't mean you should make up a story like DirecTV did in their commercials, right? But it does mean that you have something that is often way more interesting to other people than you think it is in your own head and mind. So if you step back and look at, when was the actual first time that I thought about, like, maybe I want to own a campground? It was often long before you sat down across from the bank and pushed the business plan across the desk and said, hey, look at this, right? It was either a memory from a childhood, or it was something you were talking about with a family member, or it was during COVID, or I don't know, you looked at your dog and your dog was like, yeah, that's a good idea because your dog talks to you. Who knows? That could happen. I don't know every dog out there. Does your dog talk to you, Scott?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Big
so,
time.
I mean, it happens. Evidence right there. Data from Scott Barr, the data guy. But whatever your story is, pull it out. And if you don't know how to articulate it into a story that resonates with people, then put it into AI, and AI will help guide you. But put that on your website, use that in your marketing, use that as part of your experience, make it personal. And that's just one way that you can then take your experience to the next level. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. And only you said it way better. So,
well, I'm just good at bullshitting. I just run my mouth, right? Like, you say the smart things, and then I just do the AI and shitification of it or whatever, right? So, but yeah, I think you have to be willing to think outside the box in 2026.
Absolutely, and like you said, there's never been a better time to do that than now. There really and truly hasn't. And it's part, and I think, from my perspective, I don't even think it's a risk to do these things. I think it's gonna determine your success. You're taking the conservative route is not gonna get it done. I think these risks, what in the past was considered a risk, to me right now is just smart business.
Here's what I worry about. I think that we are in a business. No, I don't think. I worry that. Hold on one second. I got to take a drink. Because I said I was dehydrated. I don't want to get even more sleepy and just like fall asleep like narcolepsy or something like that on the show, right? Not to make fun of people who have narcolepsy. It's a serious disease. But I don't think I have it. But I don't want to be proven wrong that I do have it on the show, live on the podcast. So, what was I saying? I can't remember what I was saying now. I lost my train of thought talking about narcolepsy. What were we talking about, Scott? Help me out here, man.
What were we talking about? We were talking about oh geez, now you got me. I don't know. I
just had like a massive brain fart when I was talking about it all. It's too bad my podcast person isn't paying attention to the show either. She'd be able to tell me what I was just talking about. Anyway, 2026 is it's never been a better opportunity for you to just step back and look at I know what I was talking about. So it worries me that the industry that we're in is full of a bunch of really smart business owners who got into this business the same way. God bless my parents. I'm just going to pick on them. My parents got into Subway because they wanted to run a business, but they didn't want to be entrepreneurs. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that one is better than the other, because I know that's instantly what people will attack me for, right? Like, I consider myself an entrepreneur because I build risky businesses that are from scratch, right? That doesn't mean that I'm better, smarter, different, whatever else. Well, I'm different, but like that doesn't mean that I'm better, different, or worse, different, right? And then there are the people who buy the businesses or start the businesses that have been mapped out and done before. And the easiest example of this is a Subway or a McDonald's or something like a franchise, right? The down chain effect of that is like businesses that are very similar to each other. I'm going to open an RV park, and I know what an RV park needs because I go to the conventions, and it's the same vendors and the same park owners who have done these stuff for 30 years, who have had successful businesses. Not saying these people are wrong, right? But you look at those people and say, well, I know exactly what it takes to build an RV park. It takes a swimming pool and a miniature golf course and a bunch of sites with concrete pads and patio furniture and maybe a fire pit. And it takes X number of spaces at X number of angles with X number of awnings being able to fit and X number of trees and maybe a sewage processing plant and maybe not, and maybe a store that stocks X number of goods, but only this, and that. It's a blueprint that's laid out for you. And I think it's been copied to death in the United States. And so there's nothing wrong with that until the point where you have a down economy and people are looking to diversify, or you have a generation that's coming up that's looking for experiences, all of the things that are hitting at the same time now, which nobody's ever experienced in our industry before. And then you have to step back and look at, well, is this what I really got into this industry for? And what I worry is that we have a lot of people in this industry who, again, are really, really smart, but are not interested in being creative. They are capable of being creative. They're just not interested in being creative. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I could talk for a very long time on that.
I mean, we're going to shorten the show a little bit today. We have a little bit of time if you want to riff.
No. Yeah, I will. Just for a moment. Yes, I've been in this industry since 2002.
Oh my God, you're so old. Oh, sorry.
I am.
I'm sorry. I thought my mic was muted. I apologize.
I am. It's like, but I'll be the guru on the mountaintop. I just need to shave my head and wear a robe.
No, you can't do the Trump thing, man. Are you calling yourself Moses now? Like Trump posted a picture of him being a
guru.
doctor.
It's like the Buddha guy on the mountaintop.
Oh, the Buddha. Okay, that's much better.
Yeah. But in the time in those 20, 40 years, geez, I have seen so little change and so much resistance to change, that it's part of the DNA of the industry.
Mhm.
There's a very big aversion to risk. Risk, it appears in many cases, is not rewarded. Um, the industry is overall has a very um, myopic view that's steeped in many years of quote tradition and ways of doing things that haven't really changed much. And you can see that. All you have to do is go to any industry gathering, and you will see that. You will hear it. I feel like things now are changing somewhat. Just I think it's out of necessity, and that's what happens. But overall, the industry itself. I mean, if you go and look at an RV, what the interior looks like, what the floor plan is now compared to what it was when I first started in the industry 24 years ago, there's very little change. You know what the difference is? Now you have USB ports to charge your phone. I
It's
mean,
important. Don't
that's one of
minimize
the
that,
biggest
man.
change. I mean, and that sounds snarky, but it's kind of true. That the changes have been minimal. They're the interior design, the way it looks, the functionality is essentially the same as it was at that time. And I'm talking about RVs right now, not the
Yeah.
industry as a whole. Um, but then when you look at the campground industry, what really has changed on site at most campgrounds that have been around for that amount of time? Has a campground that was around in 2002 changed a lot over those 24 years? No,
Nope.
no, it hasn't. The change is coming from new development from the glamping sector. That's where some innovation is coming in. Uh, I see that being stifled a little bit, even, uh, but still, it actually is a place where people are looking at some different ways of delivering different types of services, amenities, and experiences. But overall, the industry itself is highly conservative, and I'm not talking about politics. I'm just talking about its approach to
Yeah, the
business.
word of conservative, the definition
Yeah.
of the word. Yeah.
And it really needs a big disruption, and maybe what we're going through right now is it. And maybe this is what the industry needs. It's it's like what was the um yeah, I'll say it because we don't even know who's listening. But it's like the Batman movie with Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Mhm.
When early on, and when he's dancing around, he's like, "This town needs an enema," and you know that's kind of how I feel about the industry overall. It needs a flushing out, and it needs some change and some innovation. And that was a really crude way of putting it, but honestly, it's kind of how I feel. Um, I feel like there's I talk to other people, and yeah, I'm kind of old, but I like talking to young people. And I talked to a young guy earlier this week. He's 27 years old and has some really cool ideas. And he just like it was really interesting to watch him light up when I started talking to him about some of this stuff. And and I was just thinking, it's like this is what we need in our industry. We need people like this. He's really into the outdoors, very outdoorsy, and kind of the opposite of how we label a lot of Gen Zers. And but that's what we need. We need more of that spirit. That in the conversation, it's like I got as much out of it as he did because I got to understand where he was coming from a little bit more, and understanding that perspective. So again, to get back to the original point about it being a conservative industry, it still is, and that if it continues to be that way, I don't know if it can survive in its current iteration.
Well, it won't in its current iteration, right? I mean, it isn't going to. Now, whether that's 5 years from now or 20 years from now, like the things that we talk about on the show prove those points, right? All we need is one of the 50,000 different things that we've talked about on this show from a technology standpoint wise to come true to fundamentally change the aspect and operations of campgrounds. Self-driving cars that allow people to move out further out of the city or drive farther distances, right? Electric vehicles. That changes how campgrounds operate, how people want to stay, when they want to stay, when they want to stop. Self-driving RVs, flying cars, like all robots, not having to go to work as much, not having to commute, being able to have Starlink access. All these things that some of which are crazy in the future, some of which aren't, most of which are all going to be here in 20, 30 years, call it, right? Depending on what we're talking about. It is going to force a reckoning in this industry, and that doesn't mean that the industry has to suffer or go through terrible things. It's just going to be a turnover. And there's going to be operators who are like, I'm going to embrace this and I'm going to change my campground. There's going to be operators that refuse to. But I think the biggest change is going to come from the outside, and whether that's the hotel chains or whether that's new people like your 27-year-old you're talking about who are coming into this industry for the first time with fresh new ideas and who are building something, whatever the fuck they want to call it, right? A moon lander, looning base, whatever I just made up before, right? Is all going to become what we either term now as the outdoor hospitality industry or as something else. It's still outdoor hospitality, right? It's just going to become that. It's the same way we had a conversation, I don't know, probably been a year ago now, but months ago, whatever, about the RV industry and how a recreational vehicle does not have to be what the fuck they say it is. Like that's a broad definition of a vehicle that has recreational capabilities is a big word that you could take in so many different directions if you wanted to future-proof yourself. A flying car could be a recreational vehicle. It's only limited by the people who are unable to think outside the box. And that does not mean that we don't need those people who think in the box. We do. Those people are really smart. They have been here a long time. They've been through the I don't know. I can't think of the word, right? They've been through the ringer. They know all the things. They've seen all the things. Their perceptions and inputs and advice are really, really valuable. For sure, that has to balance with the people who just come in and they're like, no, this isn't going to work, right? Not because you don't want to change, but because I've seen the numbers and I've ran the data and I've been doing feasibility studies or whatever else, right? There's got to be a balance there. I'm not trying to shit all over anybody who's been in this industry for a while, because that's me.
No, and that's a really good point, because, and I agree 100% with that. It's we still need that perspective. We still need people who have that. I sometimes I tell people about how when you think about putting together a group or that's trying to do product development maybe or something, service development, whatever. It's like I give the example of several years ago on a winter trip into the Rocky Mountains. There were three of us, my brother-in-law and a friend of ours and myself, and both of them were aerospace engineers, and me, and so we're doing all this navigation stuff. We're in the backcountry. It's wintertime. It's snowing, and every, I don't know, probably like and I'm not exaggerating, probably every 150 feet, they would want to stop and do a map check. And I'm like, you know what? We can see where we're going. Let's just go. And they would look at me like, well, no, we got. And I go, let's just keep. So, to make a long story short, my role in this situation was to keep pushing us forward. Their role was to keep us on track, because to make sure that we didn't. So if it would have been all engineers on this trip, we never would have got there. We would have ended up having to bivvy somewhere. We never would have made it to our destination. And if it was all me in there, we might still be wandering around in the mountains somewhere because we would have taken the wrong turn somewhere. It took the combination to get us there. And I feel like that's what we need in the industry. We still need that mix. We do, and I hammer them a bit. we still need some of that conservative perspective. We absolutely do.
For sure we do. We just, what we need is the people in the middle. What we need is the people who are, this is how the industry ends up evolving, right? Is not because we get rid of the old people and we bring in the new people. It's because some of the older people, not physically, right, but the old guard, right,
Yep.
are able to say, like, I am willing to learn a couple new tricks. And because of that, I'm willing to change a little bit, 5, 10, 15% of my thinking to be able to say, like, I'm over here, I'm going to move here. And then we have the 27-year-old who comes in and says, like, maybe this isn't your guy, right? But it's anybody who comes in the industry. I have all these ideas. I'm just going to make it work. This is how I'm going to make it work. He doesn't work either, but if he's willing to come 5, 10, 15%, then he comes slower to the middle. And then all of a sudden, you guys both go to a conference or a networking event or something like that, and you can actually hear each other across the room instead of being all the way over here on two separate sides. And then those people begin to go 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, and then all of a sudden you're 20 and you're right in the middle. And then those people, those hybrids of people, and we have a lot of really smart management companies and investment groups who are doing that very thing right now, right? Those are the people who end up leading the industry, I think, long term.
Yep.
And I think you get more of them over time. But right now, we don't have enough of them.
We don't. We need more. We need that influx of the way you said it earlier is perfect. It's like the balance. We need balance in the industry. It's getting better. It is. It's too slow. It's too slow. But
but
again,
I think it's almost slow because if you step back and look at from an entrepreneurial perspective, right? Somebody who, because this has to be, if you're getting a 27-year-old or whatever, or a 56-year-old too, who's coming into the industry, right? Age doesn't matter. A 56-year-old with new, fresh ideas, who has never been in this industry before, who's coming into it and wants to start something that is not carbon cutter, cookie cutter of what everybody else has done, or very similar, then you are an entrepreneur, right? You are. And so then at that point, you have to step back and run through all these, I don't know. You have to run through all these processes. You have to see what works and what doesn't. You have to get to, I don't know. There's probably a better point that I was going to make. I'm really losing my train of thought here. That's twice in one show.
It's because you're tired, man. It's too hot.
It is, man. I should close the window, but I don't know if that would help. But, but you are an entrepreneur coming into this business. And so, that's what I was going to say. I think that there is a lack of entrepreneurship generally in our industry, perhaps because to this point, outside of perhaps the glamping side, which you indicated is moving forward in an innovative way, right? Or more so than campgrounds and RV parks are, at least. There has yet to be a model that has been put forth to make a campground as profitable as an investment in a hotel, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that in some ways puts an artificial cap on the willingness of some of the entrepreneurial talent to come into the outdoor hospitality industry, which in and of itself can be solved with entrepreneurship, because eventually some of those people will figure out how to do it, right? But there's other lower hanging fruit for some of the entrepreneurs. So I just think the industry as the industry continues to evolve, as we continue to adopt more technology, as more people get online, as more websites happen, as more AI functionality surfaces this, et cetera, on and on and on, as more people meet together in the middle, then there's more opportunities for some of these investments and entrepreneurial opportunities to come about that weren't there before, that maybe make a higher margin of return on investment. Because, let's look at it right now. Look at treasuries, right? Like the United States Treasury. We're going to go outside of our wheelhouse for a second, right? Like United States Treasuries. I think it's down to 4.4 now or something, right? Because of the, happiness about maybe there's going to be a deal the last couple of days. But it was at like 4.66%. That was the yield on the 10-year Treasury or whatever that you can invest in. You get a 4.66% return on your investment just by holding treasuries for 10 years. So you've got to beat a 5% return if you want my money just as an investor on a campground business, right? Because I could just go buy treasuries and not do anything. So I think the opportunities are there. I think if people are willing to think outside the box and do things differently, and especially as you get into an era of where AI can help with your margins, robots can help with your margins, flying cars are bringing new people into the business, self-driving cars, technology, Starlink, all the things that, not that you have to infuse that into your business in an obvious way, because you are a disconnected outdoor hospitality experience where we want people to enjoy nature. But if you can use those tools to get people there or expose your business in new ways to different people, that allows you, I think, to operate at margins that you never could before, which makes you more attractive to both yourself and to outside entrepreneurs coming to our business. Is that fair? Did I put that together okay?
Yep.
That's a decent recovery from my mind blank.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good. I like it.
So I don't know if that's it, but all right. What else you got from data? What's the summer looking like? What have you heard?
What I've heard so far is that 4th of July is looking decent, depending on where you're at. And some of that is optimism over the boost for the U.S. The 250th anniversary gathering. There, in some areas, in some campgrounds, they're doing celebrations of that, and I think people in general, it fits that pattern where if you have something extra to talk about, then people will do it. But I don't think we really needed it on 4th of July because it was probably going to be fairly full anyway. It's the other times that aren't. So what I've heard is some of the guarded optimism from earlier has dampened a bit to it's going to, our best case scenario is it's going to be flat.
Okay.
And it's probably going to be down over last year. You hear a lot of from a lot of people. There's fatigue. There's a decent amount of fatigue out there. We could turn it around, but it would take something major that changes people's attitudes. Even if prices don't go down, we would need something very positive to happen. I don't know what that would be.
And when you say people's attitude, to be clear, you're talking about the consumer.
Yes.
Yeah. Which consumer sentiment was that out last week when we talked about?
Yeah,
consumer sentiment was another record, like record low.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that we don't need that. We don't need that because that's why people stay home. I've heard, at least anecdotally, that a lot of people are just staying home. They're not doing any travel at all, and that I don't know how widespread that's going to be. I think once the numbers come in for Memorial Day, it will probably give us a little bit better idea of what the look ahead for the rest of the year is going to be. I think that the fall is going to be, even though it's a midterm election, I think the atmosphere is going to be like a regular election. This year it's going to be different, which typically results in a lot of noise out there. There's going to be a lot of noise, and maybe the idea that this midterm, people kind of see it as a point where one way or another we're going to move in a direction after that. Might create a little bit of optimism. I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic in saying that, but there's that possibility. We see that once in a while with elections. When you look at it historically, though, I feel like we're in a very ahistoric time right now too. So I don't want to be too negative about it. I think we could still salvage it. Weather, I think we need really good weather in the rest of the summer because to help out. Because as you and I were talking before the show, even that the problem with weather conditions is that it doesn't always create like people not going at all. But if you put bad weather on top of everything else, it's a compounding effect, and that's what the risk is there. So let's hope for really good weather. It might inspire some people to get out a little bit more.
You want to see July 4th numbers?
Let's do it. Yes.
Yeah, you can. All right, so here's what we got. Ran these numbers from the Camp Vantage database here. I'm trying to see plus, so we can make it a little bit bigger here. All right, so here's what we got so far. This is as of, I don't know, an hour and a half ago. Headlines, public versus private. Public, you can see number of parks that we ran for as part of this just database thing. 74.6% occupied for public parks for July 4th weekend. This is checking in July 3rd, which is a Friday, for 2 nights, is what this is. So 74% is down from Memorial Day, but again, we're 7 weeks out from public, so I think that just the booking window is the same for public. I think that's going to probably inch up quite a bit. Private is 62.4%. I think 61 point something was Memorial Day. We have it down. I think I do a comparison down below in some of these charts. So right now, July 4th is 62.4% occupied for private parks. What's your take on that first?
Even though it's still 7 weeks out, that seems a little lower than I would like to see.
I agree. It is definitely a massive difference state to state, which we'll get into in a second.
But yeah, because 4th of July is such a popular weekend typically that people tend to lock themselves in a lot sooner.
Even with the booking window?
They have, historically they have.
Okay. So here's our category breakdown. This is private first. So lodging is 74% occupied, 74.2%. So again, lodging higher of a bump than RV at 62.9%. This is private parks. Tent is 58.1%. And private glamping is 39% occupied, which I guess maybe I didn't intend to include the glamping in there because we have way more. I don't know if that's glamping with campgrounds or not, but ignore that. That feels like off because we have another category. But lodging and RV, 74 and 62.9. Sorry, I did this like 30 minutes before the show. And then public lodging is 78.2%, public RV is 75.9%, and public tent 65.3%. The holiday premium here, this is interesting. So the week before July 4th, here's your data, right? The week before July 4th is lodging is 63.4%. July 4th is 74%, and the week after is 58%. So you can clearly see there's a jump for July 4th in occupancy and lodging. Same thing follows with RV, 50.6% the week before, 62% the week of July 4th, 49% the week after for RV. That's brutal. But look at the pricing. There's only a $3 markup for lodging on July 4th weekend. And there's only a $2 and whatever markup. I guess it's almost $3.19 markup. So you guys have this pricing power for July 4th that nobody's taking advantage of on a macro level, right? I'm sure there are investment groups and revenue managers on micro levels who are taking advantage of this. So what do you think of those numbers? It clearly indicates a spike on July 4th, but it doesn't look pretty before or after.
It shows that having the holiday fall on a weekend doesn't help us a lot. I don't think, because everyone's going to have Friday off. So versus if it was at a different point in the week,
does everybody get Friday off still? Is that still a thing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I don't know. I think banks do, and some for sure. Some office jobs will give them the perk of having July 3rd off. I don't know if you can say the majority of Americans get July 3rd off. Let's get an independent assessment of this.
All right.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Because I was going to say, I think most companies still do because it's part of the holiday, the set of holidays people have off.
What is the percentage of companies in the United States that typically offer July 3rd off as a holiday when July 3rd falls on a Friday, as it does in 2026? In other words, comma, how many companies versus not typically will give that day off to people when the holiday falls on a weekend and, I don't know, versus normal pastimes. Okay, we'll let that do research. Or guess, anyway. That's probably what it's going to do. Tent is 58.2%, 37% before, 43% afterwards. Like this, to me, this points like the concentration of camping is July 4th. And boy, if those are the numbers outside of July 4th on a macro level, that's not pretty.
We're not getting a lot of spillover in either direction on this.
And it's right in the middle. That's after kids get out of school, before they're going back to school.
And in the past, we would see huge bumps in people taking the week before, a week after off, or a few more days around the holiday off. And this clearly points to the fact that they are not doing that this year.
The vast majority of companies that offer it as a paid holiday will give July 3rd off, offer July 4th. 80% of private industry workers have access to paid holidays. Among civilian workers who receive paid holidays, 92% get Independence Day, and it's even higher in private industry. Since July 4th, 2026 falls on a Saturday, private employers overwhelmingly follow the same observation rule. Okay, but what about like the fact that we've had many conversations about part-time work and gig workers and less benefits over the years? Does that have any impact in it? I wonder if it's just, I'm just curious if it's regurgitating. Like, I feel like all the people who are waitresses and waiters and hotel workers and Uber drivers, and those people aren't getting July 3rd off, right? That has to be more people than, doesn't it?
Right. It's mostly office workers, office and factory workers.
Yeah, the 75% number is already generous because it's based on workers who have traditional employer-employee relationships. The landscape is shifting significantly. Approximately 1 in 4 American employees don't get paid holidays at all, but that set itself understates the problem because it only counts people classified as employees. It doesn't capture the full gig contractor workforce. A few layers to consider: even among employers who do offer holidays, only 22% give part-time employees prorated holiday pay, and 41% of employers reported that part-time employees are not given any holiday pay at all. Then you stack on top of that the gig economy workers, Uber, DoorDash, freelancers, 1099 contractors who get zero paid holidays by definitions. Depending on which estimate you use, that's somewhere around 36 to 40% of the U.S. workforce now doing some form of independent or gig work, though many of those also hold a traditional job. The U.S. is the only advanced economy with no guaranteed paid leave and has zero legally mandated paid holidays. There's no safety net underneath any of this. So the realistic picture, if you're a salaried office worker, you're almost certainly off. If you're part-time, gig, hourly, retail, hospitality, or a contractor, probably not, or at least not paid. The actual percentage of the total working population getting a paid off is likely closer to 55 to 60% when you factor everything in. Okay, so that's not, it's getting, I don't know, is that worse? Is it getting worse? Can I say that? If you don't have July 4th hours, I feel like that's worse, isn't it?
It is. I think it is too. Yeah.
It's still the majority, so I was wrong, according to Memorial Day versus July 4th pricing. RV is $2.27 more expensive, 2.9% more expensive. Lodging is $3.10. Like, such small numbers, right?
Yeah, that's
$10.44. Glamping is lower. Glamping is actually lower. This is glamping in campgrounds. It must be minus $3.35 because that number is glamping in campgrounds. It's not standalone. So super close. Not changing here. Price bands under $30. 64%. This is pretty much even spread, right? 64% for the cheapy sites. That's public parks, right?
Yeah.
59, which we expect to fill up more as we get closer. 75 to 99 would be your first true RV sites at a park, probably 70.6. 75, yeah, it's pretty much okay. States, this is public and private parks mixed. So this is the difference, right? This is both public and private. I don't know why that number is only 32 parks. So let's just skip that number because because there's more down here that's better. Empty inventory, top 5 sites, and then I got states for private only. Private only states July 4th. So here's like Maryland, 93% occupied. I don't know why it says we only have 16 parks in Maryland. I guess that's possible, right? Online reservations.
It's not big. I remember doing an analysis on Maryland a couple of years ago, and yeah, there's not a lot there for the state overall.
All right. Well, anyway, 93% occupied in Maryland. I guess that makes sense if we're smaller. And then Northeast, right? We've talked about before. Massachusetts, 86.1%. Maine, 85. New Hampshire, 83.8. And Virginia, 81. Michigan, 80. And then you start to drop off from there, right? I don't know. Like, what is a good I guess Delaware at 5 parks. Wisconsin, 79%. Alaska, 78%. But I guess you only get to go camping in Alaska a certain few months of the year, right? It's like
yeah, you're limited there with seasons.
And then 77, so Connecticut, California, Ohio, Nebraska, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont. So like it's not like probably half of them are higher than 61%, 62%, right? And then the bottom ones here are your Tennessee, Georgia, Washington, Kentucky, Missouri, Minnesota, Montana, Alabama. Like basically almost all the places you either have to drive to because there's not something right there with a lot of people, with a population and concentration of, right?
Yeah.
So most of the central and western states, or like Florida that is more long-term. Yeah, that's really what you're looking at. Texas is only 46%. Texas has a lot of parks. We have a lot more parks for Texas than that, but whatever. 530. Maybe we only have 532 with recent pricing data. I don't know. So, but we're still 37 days away. So,
yeah. I mean, there's still time, and there's a lot of last minute stuff going on. I think it would behoove anyone in the industry to aggressively put the word out. If you are not full, to let people know. Part of me wonders if there's a decent number of people who haven't even really considered camping on the 4th of July because they just assume that the parks are going to be full.
maybe.
And so I think getting in front of people a little bit might be a wise thing to do if you have capacity. Because, again, like I think of myself, like I typically wouldn't look for a campsite on 4th of July because I would just assume that I wouldn't get a campsite at the place I wanted. So,
but I also don't think it's enough for you to just say like, we have availability.
right.
Like I got all these before Memorial Day, right? Like apparently I'm on all these mailing lists. Half of them are clients, half of them aren't, right? But I get all these emails. We still have opening for Memorial Day. No shit, because it's slow, right? Like it's got to be something different than just we have availability. It's got to be we have availability and we're doing America 250 celebrations and we're doing this stuff, or there's a fireworks celebration nearby, or there's something cool you can do, or we have river tubing, or whatever, right?
Right.
There's got to be something that gives them the impetus to not just say like, I'm another RV park with another place where you can pull in your rig that has the same stuff as everybody else. I have a story. I have something different. I have an experience. I have a celebration. I have something unique tied to July 4th in America 250. This is why you should come. And if you do that, I think you, I don't know if you're going to be fine, but you're going to be a whole lot better than your competitors who aren't doing anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, again, great. It's an opportunity. Look for that. I think, when we've talked about this a little bit on here before too, but sometimes making the assumption that about things like that people already know. Never assume that, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, and the onus is on us to make sure that people really know what's going on. And if you're a campground owner, again, make sure people know, and give them a reason. Give them a reason to show up. I mean, there's probably a lot of people I think that would love to go camping on 4th of July, but again, they don't because they don't think they can do it. And if you have events, great things to bring kids to and whatever. It's like, yeah, do it up. Give them a reason.
Yeah. And take advantage of it while you still can, because email marketing is going away. This might be your last year. That'll be interesting to find out. How do you let people know? Like in an age of AI, this is where it hasn't been solved yet, right? In an age of AI, how do you actually communicate your deals and specials with people? Because right now that's email and text, but text has to be opt-in. You can't just spam a bunch of people with text, right?
Right.
So if you have a deal, how do you? I mean, obviously you still email people. I'm not saying you don't email people anymore, but that, as we saw with Google, and we touched on this briefly last week, but we didn't really dive into it. Like the amount of things that Google has announced with AI summaries and all that kind of stuff that are coming out to the public now, but eventually that are basically, you're going to open up your Gemini app on your phone and you're going to get a daily brief. I don't know if there's actually I'll look and see if there's a video on here with a daily brief, and I'll talk about it while I look at it. But Gemini announced their daily brief, which is basically Google is taking all your different sources and summarizing it, right? It's like your email and all that other stuff. I don't think there's a good video on here that I can find that's really quick. But basically, you open up your Gemini app, right? And so we've talked about the AI inbox in here before, right? That they announced back in January. They did it as a test features. They're rolling it out to a few more paid subscribers. And the idea is the AI inbox is going to be you click here instead of your inbox, and then AI summarizes what it thinks you want to see from your inbox. And that's what you see if you're paying attention to your inbox. Well, it's still easy from the AI inbox to click to your regular inbox and go through your emails if you want, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's harder is when Gemini launches a daily brief that you can connect your Gmail to and your calendar to, and then you're not in your inbox anymore. Then you're in a Gemini app, and it says, hey, here's what you got to pay attention to today. And is the campground discount email or whatever else going to be a part of that surfaced content? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be pay to play. Maybe not. So, I don't know. Lots of stuff's changing. We don't want to go down into that deep rabbit hole of all that stuff right now. But, yeah, take advantage of what you can while you can, and prepare for the future while you can. Otherwise, you're going to hit a wall. That's not going to be the economy. Well, that's going to be there too, right? What else we got? I put you on the spot. Your phone's ringing. Pick up the phone. We'll talk to that person. It's a call. We have a caller.
What was it? What line are you on? It's like, yeah. Usually I turn my ringer down. I had someone come over earlier to do some work, and so I left it on. I normally don't, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a lot of time to pay attention to over the last week. I told you before the show, like AI's kind of disappeared from my feed a little bit because I've been trying to dive into the economics of what we talked about last week, how this is going to impact outdoor hospitality and our businesses. And so I don't have a clear answer on that. There's no real update on all that, just that it continues to be there. I think we're going to get inflation numbers. Did you see the inflation numbers? 6% for producer price index already. So yeah, whatever you can do, I think, as a campground owner to ease the minds of your guests. That doesn't mean discounting, although for sure that should be an option, because as we've talked about many times on the show, discounting is not your first option, but it is still better to have someone in an RV site with a caveat of, like, if you have to bring in additional labor, then maybe not. If you have to have housekeeping turnover a cabin, maybe not. There's a certain point where it's equally valuable to you staying empty, right? But there are numbers still that you would rather have something versus nothing, whatever that is. I think I was talking to my girlfriend about this, about the food. We were stocking up like some food and stuff the other day, and I was talking to her about the grocery stores and how, like, eventually they'll adjust their supply chains depending on what people can afford and what they don't, and how their buying behavior changes and all that. But it's still better to have something for that food. A grocery store is different because they've got the food that is shipped already to their store, and they're either giving it to a restaurant or they're throwing it out. So you have a lot less margin for a grocery store where you can say like, okay, well, this steak was $70. I'm either going to put it in the trash or I'm going to get $20 for it, right? I'd rather have the $20. That's the same way as you can do on an RV site, as long as you have to account for your electric and your water costs and your staffing costs to put somebody on there. And we know that's there and it's different for every park, and we know all those costs are going up. But have those numbers in your back pocket now so that you know, if I get to a week or week and a half or 2 weeks before July 4th weekend and I'm still at 60, 70% occupancy, what is the number that I can cut my rates to and still make enough money to make sense to put somebody in that RV site? And then 2 weeks out, offer it for, I don't know, making up a number, 85. And then a week and a half out, maybe it's 80. And a week out, it's 72 or whatever that number is, right? To try to get somebody in there into your sites other than having it sit empty. But you've got to do that math in advance. Otherwise, you're going to be scrambling around trying to figure it out, or you're going to come up with a number that you think is a discount. You're going to end up losing money on it. And you're not going to realize it because it doesn't show up in your accounting, at least until you have an accountant look at it at the end of the year and they're like, what were you thinking? Which is what my accountant does to me all the time. But yeah, I think just stay on your toes, stay on your heels, think about ways that you can, talk about gas prices. Like, don't try to hide this stuff. Your campers are smart. They're going through this in their daily lives, just like you are as a campground owner. We've talked about inflation and gas prices before, right? Electricity costs, insurance, all their costs are up. All your costs are up. There's no point in trying to hide it or sugarcoat it or pretend it doesn't exist. Don't love it, but embrace it, if that makes sense, and figure out ways that you can market or create promotions or just help your guest. Like we talked to some parks about the idea of, like, if you can figure out how to run gas prices in advance for where your guest is, right, when they book, because you've got their full address. You know where they live. So you can figure out what gas prices are where they live. You know what gas prices are by you because you are at the park. And if you look up what gas prices are in between, if gas prices continue to be elevated, which they probably will be, then it's very simple for you to provide a service to your guest who makes a reservation to say that we recommend you fill up here or here before you come or after you come or on your way here, because gas prices are X number of percentage cents cheaper, right? And then your guest values you and appreciates you and then spreads the word. So those little things, like if you can figure out ways to help your guests out, package things together, bundle things together. I don't know. I still think food on campgrounds is an underserved opportunity, but nobody's building a restaurant before July 4th. Although, man, it's going to be super impressive, like, Scott, in 30 years, when you can just, like, deploy a robot and you're like, I want a restaurant. And then you, like, order this robot off Amazon. It shows up at your door and it wheels out in the middle of the field and just goes, and builds you a restaurant. Is 30 years too optimistic for that? I don't know.
Maybe not. It's there's things are happening fast.
Yeah. But so nobody's building a restaurant, but still, like, thinking about, like, I don't know, just different ways that your ancillary revenue, like canoe trips, if that's what it takes, right? Or day passes or whatever else can lift your revenue to help you get through whatever the fuck the season is going to be. And then let's all hope and pray that 2027 is better. And it's just about getting through one season, right? It's like the farmers who have droughts. Drought is a big thing, as we talked about last week in the United States. They're not going to shut down their farms, but they may choose to not plant the same crops or different crops or as many crops this year, because they know by doing so, they have enough income to do it next season, right?
Yep.
And then they survive. So not that this is a survival situation by any means. We're not that bad in campgrounds, but it is something that as consumer sentiment continues to drift further toward record lows or stays down there, it's going to be dicey.
It is. It's going to be tough for a while. It's going to be tough, but there's stay creative, stay on task, keep thinking it through. I mean, there's a lot. What like to build on what you were just talking about. It's like if you put yourself in the place of the guest, what would you want to hear? What would you want to hear from someone? What would you want to hear from a campground? What could they say to get you to show up? To stay. What would it take to convince you to stay an extra night if you're already there? These are the things. You put a little thought to it, think it through, because that's who your guests are. They're people just like you are, and they think in many ways the same way. So there's stuff we can do. It's tough. I mean, no one wants it to be like this. We'd all love it. Just
at least one person wants it to be like this, Scott.
No, yeah.
At least we're not going to name that person. We're just going to assume that there's at least one person out there somewhere.
There probably is. I'm going to go with you on that there is. So.
But yeah, I got nothing else, man. So you just want to wrap the show up a few minutes early?
I think so. I'm tired now too.
All right, tell us where you're going next week.
I am going to attend RV's Move America Week in Washington, D.C. It is the annual gathering of people from the RV industry. All the committees gather and meet, and then they go to Capitol Hill and do advocacy work as well. So I'm going to attend 3 of the committee meetings. I've been invited now to kind of attend and speak at the aftermarket parts and suppliers committee meeting because we're going to talk product development.
Okay.
I'm part of the finance committee because I do their survey on finances, which I will tell you is a lot more interesting and riveting than you would think. I initially a lot of people laugh when I tell them I go to that committee meeting and they're like, oh, it must be boring. It's not. It's actually really, really interesting. And then the camp group with all people representing campgrounds. So it's an interesting place to gather. You get a feel for what's going on in the industry. They always have a really high-end economist present there and offer feedback and estimates and projections about what's going on in the industry and what to look forward to. And I will tell you that anyone who attended last year should remember that the economist said last year at this time, you have 1 year to get it together because you're going to get hit. And that what they said has come true. So it's a good set of meetings. I enjoy it. It's a very different mindset there, and you get to really hear what's going on with people in the industry.
It'd be a whole lot easier if we could all just be insider traders.
Yep. But
yeah,
we can't, unfortunately. So
why don't you look into that while you're in DC for me, Scott?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Outwired. We're cutting a little bit short today, as we talked about. We will see you. Will we see you next week, or are you going to be in DC, so we're not going to have a show?
I should be back next week.
Okay.
I should be back.
We will be back next week for an episode of Outwired where we will grill Scott on insider trading.
I'll have
maybe other
stories.
things. All right. See you there, guys. Take care.